consciência de nossa própria fragilidade, declaramos como princípio o humanismo profundo.
Sendo princípio, é nossa ética coletiva, acolher o outro, abrigar a nós mesmos, guardar toda a casa, e também um novo começo.
Pensar novas existências, desejar um outro, reinventar o ser.
É saber que contra a indiferença existe o afeto, para a angústia e o medo existe o abrigo, e contra o horror existe a arte. É combater a desigualdade, agora mais preocupante, repartindo o privilégio de poucos com a necessidade de tantos. Onde o trabalho falta,
levar o alimento.
Se é preciso abrir mão das ruas, dos amigos, do rosto descoberto, então recriar o espaço do encontro, o sentido da confiança, o olhar. Ser gentil, às vezes,
é se aproximar apenas do necessário.
Observar limites
e a justa medida do amor.
Estaremos atentos para buscar o que deve ser feito, porque alguém necessita, porque nós precisamos, porque o mundo grita. Fazer com cuidado e ciência, sabendo que o tempo da espera
é também o tempo da cura.
É recuperar a saúde, mas é também amadurecer, mudar de estado, afinar, como o queijo, o pão e o vinho. Gentileza é o viver o tempo.
A cura é de cada um.
Um texto de Laura Cohen e Maurício Meirelles, na quarentena de 2020.
Bom dia a todos e a todas. Que alegria começar este final de semana com esse manifesto, com este encontro, com essas pessoas. Estou tão feliz e agradecida à minha amiga Erlana por ter me trazido para esse festival, naquele devaneio de quarentena, de vamos fazer um puxadinho lá, a Paty está com o festival, vai ser online, vamos pensar algumas coisas. E, gente, virou esse festival lindo, maravilhoso que vocês estão vendo aqui. Então, hoje a gente tem o grande prazer de trazer uma outra grande amiga minha, a Cláudia Gross, que fala lá do Cairo. A Cláudia é uma grande amiga, nos conhecemos em 2018, lá na Inglaterra, na Schumacher College, fazendo um curso sobre negócios holísticos. A Cláudia é um ser de luz, é uma pessoa que brilha quando participa, quando fala, quando traz as suas ideias. É uma pessoa que não tem como a gente não se apaixonar por ela. E eu estou feliz demais de tê-la aqui hoje, nesse festival conosco, para poder trazer um pouquinho de uma visão muito bonita que ela vem trabalhando. A Cláudia tem um trabalho muito lindo em cultura organizacional, trabalha com facilitação, trabalha com ativação. Ela é uma catalisadora de transformações. É uma pessoa que vem trabalhando dentro das empresas e, a partir disso, ela desenvolveu um trabalho a ver com linguagem, na maneira como a gente fala. E é muito incrível, a partir do contato que eu tomei com o trabalho da Cláudia, eu fiquei tão tocada e impressionada de como nós fomos criados dentro de uma mentalidade, de um padrão de linguagem que nem nos damos conta de muitas coisas que falamos. Então, esse encontro de hoje, ele tem muito a ver com isso. A Cláudia vem aqui nos contar um pouquinho toda essa reflexão que ela tem feito sobre como a gente fala e de que maneira isso molda o mundo que a gente vive. Na verdade, A gente tem, através das palavras, uma capacidade incrível de transformar a nós mesmos, a comunidade que nós vivemos e o mundo como um todo. Então, é muito linda essa visão da Cláudia. Estou muito feliz dela estar aqui hoje, podendo compartilhar conosco. E diferente de outros painéis que nós estamos tendo no festival, este é muito especial, porque vai poder trazer as pessoas mais próximas para pensarmos juntos nesse ponto de vista, de refletirmos juntos sobre as questões de linguagem. Né? Esse aqui vai ter um momento de fala da Cláudia e vai ter todo um momento de trabalho conjunto, um workshop para a gente pensar todo mundo aqui, o que pode se extrair, né, desse nosso encontro. Então, estou muito feliz, muito agradecida à Cláudia por ter aceitado nosso convite. E tenho dois pequenos avisos aqui do pessoal da produção. Primeiro, que tem a ver com essa tela colorida que vocês estão vendo. O pessoal pede para a experiência do painel ser melhor, clicar nos 3 pontinhos, clicar na tela colorida que vocês enxergam aí, do verbo gentileza. Tem 3 pontinhos em cima, vocês clicam nos 3 pontinhos e clicam em fixar vídeo. E assim essa tela vai ficar o tempo todo aparecendo para vocês. Tá? A outra questão que eu tenho que lembrar aqui para vocês é que temos um QR Code aqui. Estou apontando certo? Estou, né? Para fazerem contribuições para o povo Funiô, que é uma comunidade indígena, e vários dos painéis e dos eventos aqui do Festival Verbo Gentileza estão com essas contribuições abertas para quem se sentir à vontade, querendo ajudar essa turma. Eles têm realmente, estão passando por algumas necessidades nesse momento de pandemia, então é muito bonito a gente poder olhar para essas pessoas também e dar a nossa contribuição. Eu acho que é isso, e eu quero agora passar a palavra à Cláudia, para ela nos trazer, então, esse olhar tão sensível, tão bonito e tão gentil que ela tem em relação à linguagem e a esse mundo melhor que a gente quer criar. Um beijo em todos, um bom workshop para nós.
Thank you very much, Daniela, for this very warm welcome. And I am delighted to be here with all of you. For me, it's already afternoon, and I understand that for you, it's the early morning. It's great that you start your Saturday with this workshop, and I can promise you that after it, you might see the world in more colors, and especially, hopefully, in more green colors. I'm thankful for the chance that I had to meet Daniela years ago, you know, that brought me as a foreigner to your festival. I am also happy that it's now online, you know, what an opportunity. And Daniela and me and Erlanda, we had beautiful preparatory workshops. So it was full of energy and sparking ideas. So I hope that this kind of energy will today transfer to you, and that you support me in spreading green language to the whole world at the end of the day. Who am I? I have prepared a short presentation, and the first slide speaks about myself. So let us have a look at my first slide. The next one. Just move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So who am I? You see this little map on that slide. This is the north of Africa. The dark blue area is Cairo. This is where I currently am. And yeah, some people would say she's a consultant, but I do not see myself as a consultant. I am an organizational innovator and transformation catalyst. And that's what I do. And we'll also then contribute to the panel tonight, to the fireside chat that we have there. I am also a business humanist, and I'm supporting people in their personal growth. I'm hosting events, I'm designing events, and as you can see on the slide, I'm the founder of Speak Green, so today's session is dedicated to this one. And as Dani also said, I'm also the founder of the Human-Centered Organizational Governance, so I'm bringing humanity back to work, and yeah, this is in the center of my work. You will see both connections in our workshop here together, and hopefully it will be very interactive. On the next slide, you see a picture that you might be more familiar with than I am. A colleague of mine here in Cairo, Maria, she is from Brazil. And when I told her that I'm participating in this workshop and offering my workshop on Speak Green, she said, like, yes, this makes totally sense. And when I told her the title, she said, like, yes, you remember there was this older gentleman, and he was like writing this as a graffiti on all the walls, Gentileza, Gerard, Gentileza. And I thought, like, wow, you know, this is Speak Green, without even having said anything about my work or having shared any of my insights with you. And I was deeply touched. So I thought I start with this because in this, in a nutshell, you already see what my presentation is going to be about. On the next slide, you will see the agenda for today. So it begins, it's like the U, like in theory U, for those of you who know it. We start in the top left corner with the welcome and opening. That's where we currently are. And I will introduce you to Speak Green. And then in the next step, I want to give you 9 practical examples about Speak Green. And I thought, since we are all relating to our past half year and this festival, and that it's online, is also inspired by the pandemic, I thought, let's look at language and the Corona period. Then we will have working groups, so you can have some exchanges and getting to know each other. And then based on this, I will then look at how does our language impact our actions? What are other areas that we could look at? And then we will wrap up our beautiful time here together and come to a closing. So this is our agenda. And I will come back to this a couple of times so that you know, where are we actually currently? How does this all make sense? I'm interested in getting to know from you, what made you come to today's workshop? What attracted you to the title? So please add it to the chat. What made you come? And you can see the question on the next slide. What made you come to this workshop, to this Speak Green workshop? Let me know, and let me know in any language. I can also switch on my interpretation, because we have this beautiful, it's for me the first time that there's a simultaneous translation, but I can switch on the English channel. So if maybe Manu, you could, if there are any posts regarding why you all came to that workshop, you maybe can read it out loud in the English channel, so I can also hear it, yeah, so that it's shared. What made you come? Don't be shy. Let me know who's there, who is joining us today. Yeah, yeah. So I'm listening. Yes, so I'm listening at the same time while I'm reading what you are saying. And yeah, great that you come to learn and getting new perspectives, the idea of words, constructing worlds, yes. And also that you believe in the power of words, that they can build worlds. Exactly, this is what I'm talking about today. Any other contributions? Who else is there? What made you come? Write it in any language that you wish. Share it with me. It really matters. So while you are adding the reasons why you came to the chat, beautiful. So you are here in the right place. Here you will learn about it. And one of the guidelines of speaking, one of the philosophies is that the words we speak become the house we live in. And just imagine, you know, if the words you are using as a habit, are they really like constructing the house that you want to live in, or do you wish it would be a different house? So I would like us to reflect also together in the chat on what are words that you really dislike? You will see it on the next slide, a totally red slide. It's the only red slide in that whole presentation. On the next slide is the question, what words do you really dislike? Maybe you can relate to this. There are words, you know, one of the words that I really dislike is deadline. It comes from the Civil War in the United States. It's describing a real deadline. People got shot when they crossed it. Deadline for me is a red word. What are your red words? Immigrant. Certainty. What others? Human resources. I understand this even although it's written in Portuguese. If it's the right one, yeah. Stability. Yeah. So there are words that are immediately evoking a bad impression. Yeah, and this is exactly how Speak Green started. When I received the idea for Speak Green, I've been in a traffic jam in Cairo, and I've been terribly late for an appointment. And I got a call saying, don't be late. Well, I was already late. And then I could see signs that were saying, don't turn here. There was a huge billboard saying, don't miss this opportunity. And I just thought, like, could you please all stop speaking to me in this don't. Not helpful right now. You know, I would like to know how delayed can I be that I still am there in the right time and meet the people. Where can I have a U-turn to get out of this traffic jam? So it was really about doing this mental U-turn. So I would like to do this mental U-turn with you as well. When you now think about words that inspire you, that energize you, what are they? On the next slide, you find it as a guidance. It's a totally green slide. So what are words that you feel have power and energy and inspiration? On the next slide is the question for that. So add them to the chat. And I also see the other words that you have added, like prison, single-use package, yes. So, and here's Maria. Hola, Maria. Freedom and compassion. Fantastic. Yes. Peace. So these are green words. Could you move the slides to the next one? What are other green words that you love? Energy, inspiration, hope, love. Respect, wisdom, garden, nature, laughter, ocean, play, hug, support, kids, children. Tranquility, calmness, yes. So you can see, while maybe you are adding more green words to that chat, you can already feel the difference. You know, when we are talking about red words, they are transferring a certain energy to us, you know, and they are like very destructive for us and also for the communities within. While exactly what Paula is just saying in the chat, you can feel the difference, you know. It is a completely different story if you shower yourself constantly with red words or you shower yourself with green words. And I want to invite you to do that shift, you know, to see where in our language do we use a lot of red words and then to transfer them to green ones, because very often there is a green translation. So on the next slide, you see the purpose of our workshop here together. In the next slide, I thought we come together to increase our awareness for the power of words and language. And together, you can already see it in the chat, we are building a comprehensive and an inspiring Speak Green vocabulary. So yes, so to bring these words together. And we are changing the world by transforming the way we express ourselves. And so this is the purpose of Speak Green, and it's also the purpose of the workshop here together. So one of the motto of Speak Green is on the next slide. It comes from Ivan Illich, and he said, if you want to change society, then you must tell an alternative story. And this is what Speak Green is about. So I have prepared for you 9 practical examples. So on the next slide, we will have the beginning of it. 9 practical examples of how the language we choose has shaped our experiences during the coronavirus period. So could you move the presentation forward, please, for me? And you see that here on that title, I'm speaking deliberately, consciously, not about a coronavirus crisis or a coronavirus war. And why I do this, I will tell you in a second as well. So if you could click one more for another overview for the coronavirus language. You see, in the past 6 months, we were all bombarded with different words, different expressions, and epidemic, pandemic, viral, and so on. Please move on to the next slide. Exactly. So virus, health, something going viral, infections, a lot of language, a lot of words that we did not hear before as much as we did in the past 6 months. And I, with my green glasses for Speak Green, I was wondering about it. What are we listening to? What is the story they are telling us? And how could we change it? So one of the first impressions that I got was, and you see it on the next slide, it is about this word of social distancing. You know, they were saying social distancing is what we have to do, while actually what we had to do was physical distancing, and we came socially together. So it's exactly the opposite. Until today, they speak about social distancing, while no, we need to come together socially, we need to support each other, have social solidarity, and so on. It's physical distancing. So this change in words is changing the whole meaning. And you see that in this picture that we took from Italy, from people doing sports classes on the balcony. It's not just social distancing. It is actually what they did is distant socializing. No? Another word, another way of speaking was regarding being safe at home. And if you go back one slide, so many people were saying that they feel that they are stuck at home, while actually what we were experiencing was we were safe at home. So you see the change in one word is changing the whole story. On this slide, you already see that this expression of working from home was also something interesting. You know, for a long time, we spoke about flexible working time and remote work. Suddenly we had to do it. And we were working from home, WFH, yeah? I'm not sure if for many, it looked like on this picture on the left, you know, with fruits and green tea and a totally clean desk. I have the impression for many of us, it looked more like on the picture on the right, you know, and what you see there is not so much working from home, it is more like at home during a crisis, trying to work. So you see how language matters there, and someone who picked it up is the Canadian government. You see their statement on the next slide. There, the Canadian government was sending a message to the public servants, the public sector servants, and was saying that that exactly this, they were telling, they had this working remotely COVID-19 principles, and they said, you are not working from home. You are at home during a crisis trying to work. And they were telling them, we as your employer, we have really understanding for you in this particular time of this extraordinary, exceptional year. At the end of the day, we will also move forwards. It's not just working from home. In the future, we will hopefully work from everywhere. That's what the next slide is about. So work from anywhere would actually be a better term when you think about it language-wise. So something that you already can perceive here is another philosophy of Speak Green that you find on the next slide. It is coming from Anais Nin, and she is saying that we do not express things as they are, we express them as we are. And this is very important. Could you click to the next slide? This saying is very important because what we do is we are expressing our consciousness in our language. So this is on the next slide. And maybe there's a delay in the line, but this was the quote I just have shared exactly. And on the next slide, one more, you find the fourth example of the 9 that I have prepared. The fourth example is about that people were saying from the beginning, protect yourself. Next slide, please. So they were saying, protect yourself, be careful, you know, with your own health. And they were publishing lists for good, good advices, how to protect yourself. And then after a while, people were realizing it's not just about protecting myself. We are in this together. We need to protect ourselves, everyone. It's not just about our beloved ones. It's not about only the circle of friends around us. It is literally about each and everyone. It's about the whole world. So what happened here by changing the word and moving from protect yourself to protect yourself and others, it was enlarging the circles of empathy. And you see this on the next slide. So on the next slide, you see the circles of empathy rippling out from yourself over whatever, the communities and so on. Next slide, please. This is exactly it. So think about yourself being the individual in the circle. So your circle of empathy could also integrate family and friends, your neighborhood, maybe the organization, your workspace, community, your region, your country, your continent, and ultimately the whole world. And this is what I'm actually trying to support you in, to embrace the whole planet. The fifth example I want to share with you here about our experiences in the coronavirus period is on the next slide. For a very long time, when you think about different jobs, you know, we actually thought about them as low paid or low skilled workers, you know, and then after a while we realized these people we call low skilled workers are actually not low skilled. They are very well skilled. They are low paid and undervalued workers. This makes a big difference. And then throughout the corona period, we understood, wait a moment, they are not only low paid and undervalued, they are essential workers, really important for us and for maintaining our lives. So you can see here a list of many of those professions: first responders, nurses, medical workers, employees in pharmacies and hospitals, doctors, journalists, farmers, fruit and vegetable pickers, non-profit workers, janitors, cleaners, and so on, and so on, and so on. So many essential workers that we needed in the time. Yes, they are low paid and undervalued, and they're also essential. I hope that in the future we will adjust their pay scales so that it really reflects how essential they are. This would already change our world. The sixth word, the sixth contribution that I would like to add here is on the next slide. Something that everyone said in this corona period was like, we need to save the economy. And I love this picture with these dinosaurs saying like, oh shit, the economy, you know, collapsing, you know, like hit by an whatever meteorite, you know, like, oh shit, the economy, how could this happen? While what is actually happening is that there were also other people saying like, no, it's not about saving the economy. It's about saving lives. It's about saving the life of human beings, of everyone on this planet. And I love this picture when someone said, you know what? I am not dying for work. I am not ready to risk my life under these conditions. And when you think about this, there's also another powerful statement on the next slide that everyone who was saying, yeah, we have to come back to work for the economy. Honestly, there is no business on a dead planet. We have to face that. And it's another way of changing the narrative. There's 3 more examples I want to share with you in this Corona period section. One of them is on the next slide. I found it on a website that was ironically about a website on peace and freedom, but their statement was COVID-19, waging war against the virus is not what we need to be doing. Aha. So now we know what we do not need to be doing. Great. What do we need to be doing? This is my bigger question. And you see it on the next slide. We can move our metaphors. We can move our narratives from this virus as a war, Corona as a war metaphor that everyone was using, and presidents called themselves a war president, and they called even medical workers white soldiers. And you can relate to examples of this. Others said, you know, this whole experience is a portal. It's a journey. It's maybe a sport challenge. It's something that we are all in together. So by changing the narratives and not speaking about war all the time, this would be very helpful. I've brought you like 2 more visualizations for this on the next slide. One shows this development of the war metaphor. It's not so really readable, so I'm going to talk you through it. The red one looks at pandemic as a war. So the citizens are the soldiers, and that you have a duty to fight and to support the country, to defend the country. So there's an enemy, you know, and so this is like what this pandemic as a war is about. In the green one, the perspective is the pandemic is a river, and we all need to work together. We all need to explore the environment and find out what is the best way to deal with this river, or even to cross it. So a different way of seeing it. And the pandemic as a river is actually about healing. It's a healing journey. So these are examples. Something that I found impressive is on the next slide. When they were moving, there was a group on Face that was calling, instead of calling themselves scaremongering, they called them caremongering. So it's about spreading care and not fear. We have enough fear, I guess. So it was really about spreading care. This is the 7th example. The 8th one, and now we're coming closer to our reality right now, and is about returning back. You hear this until today. People are saying, yeah, we need to return back. We have to return back. And the bad news is there is no U-turn in this. We are not returning back. This is flowing forwards, you know. So every time when someone says like something like build back better, for example, I was very unhappy about this hashtag, although I like the people behind this initiative, because I do not want to build anything. I want to co-create. I want to organically let things happen. I do not want to, what was this, build it back? I do not want to do anything backwards. I want to move forward and better, hopefully, but there are so many other words to express what our direction is. So returning back, I would replace this with moving forwards. And whenever you find yourself in these conversations, I strongly inspire you to also change the narrative, because we should not go back to normal, because normal was the problem. And with this, we come now to the next slide and the 9th example in this Corona, for this Corona related language. The 9th example is about the new normal. You hear it everywhere. Everyone speaks about the new normal. Could you click to the next slide? So it's in the news, it's everywhere, the new normal. And when you think about this, I am not interested in a new normal. I'm not interested in a next normal. And here, please stay on that slide. I will read it out loud to you. It's a quote from Sonia Renee Taylor. And what she said is the following: we will not go back to normal. Normal never was. Our pre-corona existence was not normal other than we normalized greed, inequity, exhaustion, depletion, extraction, disconnection, confusion, rage, hoarding, hate, and lack. We should not long to return, my friends. We are being given the opportunity to stitch a new garment, one that fits all of humanity and nature. This is the mission. And I think this perfectly resonates with the festival that we are all currently attending. This also matches your green words you mentioned earlier. In that list of green words, you said garden, you said nature, so perfectly in line, perfectly in resonance. And you see, for me, it's not about the new normal, it's about the emerging future. We are creating it together, co-creating it. We are moving forward. It's emerging while we are walking, and we need to see what will happen there. But it's something totally new. It's not just a fix for the problems of the old world. We can move beyond that. On the next slide, you see the overview of everything that I now spoke about. So moving from social distancing to physical distancing, or so from being stuck at home to save at home, to instead of working from home to being at home during a crisis, trying to work. Low-skilled workers are actually essential workers. Protect yourself moves to protect yourself and the community and the health system. Fight a war is about experience a transition. Save the economy is about save lives. Return or move backwards, pivot and move forward. And the new normal is actually about the emerging future. What I'm talking about here is, and this is what you see in the next slide, thank you for this, is about greening the world, you know? I mean, like spreading green language, greening the world, healing it, being regenerative with our words, with our actions, because I feel that this is something that if we didn't learn it before Corona, this is now something that many people woke up to in that particular period. And I think we are ready for this emerging future and creating it together. So I thank you, first of all, for listening to what I've presented to you so far. I've seen the chat rolling and I could not focus on both, but I will read about it in a second. I want to open the floor now. If there are any questions, if there are also maybe answers from your side, I'm offering, of course, to offer my answers. Whoever would like to open your mic and say something, please do that. Are there any questions or that are in the chat? Maybe can someone guide me through it? Could I, or I just scroll through it?
I have a first question.
Yes, Ellen.
Claudia, thank you so much. I'm so excited. This is such an easy system for me. When I imagine that I can think very easy, moving from red to green, Erlana, moving from red to green. And how do you suggest, for example, when we are in a meeting, in an organization, right? We are in a meeting and we feel that heat, né? We have that toxic corporate dictionary, né? Glossary, and we feel that, and we can't help it saying red, speaking red. How can we disarticulate this automatism of speaking red when you are in a business or negotiation or whatever it is, situation, professional? How can you help me?
Yes, I mean, it all begins with our awareness for it, you know, like right now that you see, wait a moment, you know, this is the way, the red way is very often the way how we used to say things, and we need to move beyond this. This is how we used to say it. And we need to create a new language that is in mind, that is aligned with our consciousness and how we want to see the world. That's one thing. So it comes with training. I mean, I'm now, this initiative is now over 6 years old, and I'm now training myself because my sensitivity for language is getting like finer and finer, as you can imagine. And when I find myself, you know, also in situations where I am feeling, or everything that I could say is full of fire and red words, you know, if you feel like a dragon and like bursting it out, I try as much as I can to first pause and to think about it and be clear about what do I want to say. And sometimes, you know, if it happens that it's red language, then I also need to pause and say, wait a moment, you know, this is not how I want the story to end. Let me say this again, you know, I actually see this, how could I like formulate this in a more green way? And I can do this with others as well, you know, that I tell them, listen, I see that the words are now out. I cannot take them back, but maybe we together can find a way of reformulating it, because this is not how I wanted to sound. This is not how I wanted to be. And I sometimes also intentionally, I'm saying something red, and I tell people how I then transform it to green language, because otherwise sometimes they are missing the connection, and they do not get the point so well. So what I did on the slides of showing a red word and a green word and the transformation, I do this also while I speak. And so this would be my suggestion there. But definitely, and if I really feel, you know, if I'm now saying something, I will burn the whole meeting, I would rather take a break and would, like, whatever, prepare some tea or do something else, you know, and then come back and be like, wait a moment, here's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Breathe, breathe.
Yes, definitely. So I see that Fernanda wanted to also ask something. Let me move upward. Do I think that the red words come from a patriarchal mindset? Do we need more feminine vocabulary? Yes, I think so. And I really believe that our words, and I've written an article about this, but today I wanted to focus more on the Corona language. And but yeah, when you think about business language, you can see this even more. You can see that a lot of the business terms we are using are inspired, for example, by the military. Think about all job titles. You know, you have almost everyone in a company, at least in English, they are called officers. Yeah, communication officer, innovation officer, whatever officer. Even startups do this, although they have the freedom to call them differently. Then you have a general director, you have a field office, you have a headquarter, and you have a strategy. This is all military language. And what you said about the patriarchy, yes, you can also see that there's a lot of machismo in the language. And I mean, think about this, you know, I mean, very often in my contracts, for example, they are writing, for better readability, we are dropping the feminine version. We just speak about you in a masculine version. And I read these contracts and I'm like, huh? Who is he? What is he doing? What is his responsibility? Who is this guy? You know, that's my contract. Who is this person? Is there a second person involved? So I find this like particular, you know, that I also encourage everyone to be more, not just gender balance, because we can also, for a while, we were like we were in gender binaries, and now there's more and more people moving beyond the gender binaries also in language. In German, we are now adding a star between the male version and the female, what is this? And the ending of the word, there's a star between, and the star represents all other other genders, all the other magic in between. So yes, I'm totally with your question. And I also see more examples. Think about other business language. It's machine language. I will come to this later, but it's really, we need a more feminine vocabulary, and I believe it's a more human one eventually, because feminine, masculine, it's human, you know, let's meet as humans. And the man in human is not coming from man as far as I understood, but maybe we find a different term for this as well, you know, like, yeah. So these are my answers for you. Let me see if there are other questions. I see your positive resonance in the chat. I'm thankful for that. Are there other questions?
Claudia, I have another question, if I may.
Please.
And people, guys, you can open the microphone and ask your question. If you want to ask in Portuguese, there is a translator also. Ou, e se vocês quiserem perguntar em português, também tem a tradutora. Cláudia, how is this robot language? How is this with the bots? How are you already working on helping people from, you know, that are programming bots to because that will be so spreading out the idea.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what I can say about this is that there are already studies about artificial intelligence, and they found, and this will also be interesting for Fernanda, they found that the artificial intelligence, these robots, they were learning our language, and they are also learning our stereotypes, which is very it's like a little bit like garbage in, garbage out, honestly. You know, we were feeding them with the way we are speaking and writing, and now it is multiplied by them, which is very unfortunate, because I wish we would have fed them with a more conscious language. That's one important point. And there's also in the language of IT, there's also a lot of master and patriarchy, you know, so there's also people already working on changing this. I would need to share this with you after our workshop, because I did not look so deep into it, but I've seen a couple of really cool suggestions how even the language in IT itself can be changed. And it's high time, you know, because I mean, a friend of mine now, she got a message from a robot saying that our electronic system has doubts. If you are a human being, please make sure that you can prove that you are not a robot. The only one in this conversation was the only human in this conversation was my friend. Yeah, but the robot tells her that their robot told him that she's maybe a robot. Imagine this. This is 2020. Yeah, the question is, Paula, I see your question regarding the if it's possible to avoid gender bias. Well, it depends. You know, I think sometimes it's also, for a while I was trying to highlight that women and men are there like at the same time. Then I also developed my consciousness and I was trying to integrate all genders. And then I learned that some people are proposing that we're not saying anymore she and he. That's the way I say it. Other people say he and she. So you had he first, then they added she. But what I did is I added the she in front of the he in English, because I believe we need to, for the last 100 years, it was he and she, and now it is she and he, according to my perspective. And then someone said, we could replace it by they. And I think they is like such a pity, because it's ironing all us out, you know, it is, there's pluralism, you know, and it's not only one. So I'm still in my mind thinking about it. It's still ongoing. It's also me developing my consciousness. We will see how it is going to continue. What I would like to do, because I also see that, I mean, there's like conversations in the chat already going on. And what I think what we do now is we bring you together to continue this kind of conversations that you have in the chat, to bring them really to make you work in different working groups. And for this, please, can you show me the next slides? Could you come back to my presentation mode? Then I set you up for the working groups. Next slide. Because I believe it's high time to speak and reflect with others on what you have heard. And there is one request. So it's two things in one. Move to the next slide, because how do I want you to work together? In the next, leave the slide. In the working groups, the next one, sorry. The next slide, yeah, that's it. Circle way. What I want you to do when you come together in the working groups, I want you to be present as you are right now. I want you to be there, fully there, switch on your cameras, have the chance to see each and everyone. Listen with curiosity and compassion. Honor silence in case that you maybe do not want to speak from the beginning, but you want to have a silent minute before you start. Do that. Offer what you can, ask what you need, offer what you think, ask what you don't understand. Confidentiality if it's needed. Believe in the basic goodness of people. So if someone is saying an opinion where you are like, man, not mine, you know, believe in the basic goodness of people. They have their very good reasons. Be patient with technology and speak from your heart. This will be the guidelines for the working group. Another aspect you find on the next slide comes from Speak Green. Something that will always help you in your whole life and in this workshop is try to move from yes, but to yes, and. Because when you are staying in the yes, but language, you are saying, I agree, I don't agree. I agree, I don't agree. I agree, I don't agree, and I slap you in your face. We don't want this. We know from improvisation theater, we know that when they are on stage and they are improvising, the only thing that keeps the ball rolling is that they always say and. So they might say a long and, like and then they continue playing. So yes, and is something you want to practice maybe already here in the working group. It's one of my quick fixes. So it's also an answer for your question, yeah, Erlana. And when you're in the working groups, I want you to do the following. Next slide, please. So introduce yourself shortly. There's enough, we have 15 minutes, but there has to be enough time that you can introduce yourself shortly, that you know with whom are you in the room. And please reflect on what we were speaking about, what I was speaking about here, examples that you've heard out of the coronavirus period as a conversation starter. And then speak about how do you change your language to transform the world. Are there maybe words in your whatever, in your communication, your website, in conversations with your team or so on, where you have consciously changed your language because you thought the old way of saying it is not serving me anymore? We need to find a different way. And have a conversation there. It will be 4 or 5 persons in these working groups. And the last thing that I want you to do, and this is the point number 4, it's the request. I hope that you have some paper with you, and ideally you also have like 2 markers. If you have like green and red would be ideal. If you only have other markers in other colors, doesn't matter. Markers would be helpful because it's more readable. I want you to document one example of one way you are changing the language on a piece of paper, like the ones that you have seen in the introduction in one of the first videos. And the format I am using in Speak Green, you see it on the next slide. I'm always using green language on top, you know, and the red language smaller and the bottom, but you don't need to stick to this, you know, but it's a suggestion. And how do I want to see, how do I want does it look like later? You see it on the next slide. These are examples. So later I want you all to be able to hold them into the camera, something like this, you know. I mean, like one classic one is like moving from war to peace, or deadline. I already said that I don't like this word and I prefer something like register, until, or something. Slaves is a new word where I understood that we need to share it, to turn it into another word, because people are not slaves, they are enslaved humans, and this is already making a big change. So this is how I wish you would come back with, you know, with one piece of paper with one of your favorite words. So in Zoom, you will be teleported automatically. This is the beauty, and we randomized you. So whoever you come together with in the group are the right people. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have. You will have automatically 15 minutes, and you will have a countdown in the window that you will find yourself in, and it will bring you back here in 15 minutes. I'm so much looking forward then to hear from you. What have you noticed? What do you take with you from these working groups? What kind of new inspiration did you get? So enjoy these working groups, and now it's time to teleport you. I think we're not supposed to be here, Daniela, right? Or I would leave the room so they can work for themselves, or how? Shall we stay? I do not hear you.
No?
Now I hear you.
Yeah? Okay. I will. I'm going to change the phone.
Yeah.
I don't know how they manage this.
I think, if the technical team could move, because there's also technical 04 VG here in the room, and I see two maybe real participants, Monica and Karin. Maybe if the technical team could move Monica and Karin to real working groups, this would be, I guess, more helpful, because they will also be in Portuguese, I guess.
I will talk with them.
Yeah, I will just leave the room. So, I mean, and even if you want to have a workout session, because for me, I'm not the part of the workout sessions. I want you to exchange about it.
Yeah, I will talk with them.
beautiful screen to reappear. Thank you, Flavio, for picking it up that fast and spontaneously, or maybe not. Shall we maybe wait for a moment, until this beautiful screen is back, and then we continue.
I think it's back, the official screen, Verbo Gentileza. Just look for it and pin it again, please.
Here it is. I did not see it in my first window, that's why. Yeah, super. Thank you, Alana. So welcome back from the working groups. I am very curious to hear from you what kind of insights or impressions you got out of it. You can share them in the chat, of course. I have the feeling that all of us switching on the phones, the mics will be a little bit challenging. So maybe you share your biggest insights with us in the chat so it's also documented. How was it? What did you learn from the conversation with others? And I switch on the English translation so that I can also listen to some of them. I'm happy, Paula, that you liked the breakout session. This is good news. A lot of work to be done. Yes, I'm with you on that. I see this as well.
I think if you raise your hands, that we open the microphones. Who wants to? So you go in the Maria. I think Maria, you can.
Yeah. It was so nice, Ariana and I. It's like there is two words for me that it's stability. It's something that it's really matched with Ariana shared with me and how it was for her that suddenly she went to bed as a consumism and she wake up as a human. And my word is stability. Suddenly everyone lost their stability and now everyone is fighting for this. And I really believe that when we change the communication and we change our thought, that we change the language and you can change everything. So during this time, I really agree with Ariana. I had to be more human. I had to go back and just thinking about I'm in the present. How can I deal with this now? So the word is stability, and I really saw the connection between what Ariana said, that suddenly as well, she just had to shift in one night from consumism to human. Yeah, there is no stability now, but life doesn't have stability. We don't have stability in nature. You don't have stability anything. And the coronavirus, the pandemic just came to show us, you have to be human, you have to be creative, you have to be, you have to speak green. Yes, this is the point that we discuss.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing, Maria.
Welcome, Claudia, welcome.
I also can very much relate to this because I think in many countries human beings were seen as consumers, and they were very much concerned about the GDP, while actually the GDP is measuring a lot of things that are very unhuman and not kind for sure. So the economia continued, but not in the way that they could measure it, but in a human way, in exchanges, in the way it used to be between human beings. It's a huge thing. Yes, exactly. And I also have seen that when you think about it, I've seen it somewhere in the chat, the idea of having dialogues and not debates. Think about this. People are inviting young people to debate the future.
Wow.
I'm never inviting anyone for a competition, nor do I invite anyone for a debate. I invite people for an exchange, a dialogue, a multi-stakeholder event, and I invite them to tap into their collaborative advantage. I am sick and seriously sick and tired. I don't find a green word for that. Or I'm just like, I'm outgrown of this idea of competitive advantage. It is competition never was an advantage. You know, it brought us into the situation that we are in. So exactly, from competing to collaborating. Any other feedback from the groups? Any other insights that someone else would like to share with us? Please do so. And Maria, I think you need to mute your mic again, or I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no.
Eu não. Can I talk in Portuguese?
Yes, I have a translation in English.
Ok. Eu não estava em grupo, não entrei, mas fiz aqui a reflexão, né? E eu acho que essa proposta dessa nova fala, ela passa por um momento de assumir a responsabilidade da coisa. Então, eu tenho mudado o meu jeito, em vez de dizer eu não posso, eu falo eu consigo a semana que vem, né? Em vez de dizer você não mandou o e-mail, eu posso dizer eu não recebi, né? Então eu trago a questão para mim e assim eu assumo a responsabilidade. Eu acho que esse exercício tem me feito abrir muito essa fala verde que eu não conhecia esse conceito. Então, acho que para mim tem uma questão da autorresponsabilidade, né? É isso que eu fiquei pensando aqui.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for your contribution. And this is exactly it, you know. I think that Speak Green is very intuitive for all of us, you know. It's something that many of us already did before. And for me, it's about widening it, you know, and sharing it with more people. For some, they only speak red language, and for them moving to, or at least thinking that there could be green language is already an adventure. And I think we need to widen it. I do exactly what you say, and sometimes writing emails or text messages takes a lot longer because I am at first I'm writing it the way we used to say it, and then I'm like, wait a moment, Claudia, you are promoting Speak Green, you know, you're not going to send this message like this. So how can we green it up? And so yes, I'm totally with you in these formulations. Plus, we also know that our brains do not understand the word no. So if I now tell you all, do not think about a pink elephant. First thing you will do is you think about a pink elephant. Next thing you will do is you will think, but she said I shall not think about it. To negate something, you need to bring that picture up in your mind first. Therefore, everything that is containing a no is not helpful. And those of you who have children, you might have seen this in practice a lot. You tell them, don't touch this. They touch it immediately. Don't play ball in the living room. What do? They play ball in the living room. So these no's do not work. So whenever I'm detecting a no, I'm looking at it. I'm like, is this a real no? Do I want to keep it? Or is this a no that I can actually replace by something else? So everyone who is saying to people, don't worry, it will get better. I start worrying if someone tells me, don't worry. I'm like, oh, worry. Maybe I've overseen something, you know? So why not to share with others? Be optimistic, be confident. Hopefully it will turn out better than you now expect. Or speedy recoveries, you know, think about people that were falling sick and everyone is wishing them a speedy recovery. I don't want to have a speedy recovery. I want to have a recovery in a healing process, in the pace, in the tempo, in the speed of my body. And of course, I wish it would, that I would heal soon. But speedy recovery is for me like having the accent on speed, while I want to have the accent on healing. Yeah, that's just also some practical examples. Did any one of you manage to write down some words, you know, on paper that you could bring with us? Is there anything that you write down? Maybe something like this one, moving from ecosystem to ecosystem. Does any one of you have written down something on paper? need to like move through all the cameras. Ah, yes, super. What is this, Fernanda? It's about poor. Can we see? You need to make, yes, super. There are many. Erlana, I need your support. Daniela, they are super. There are so many. Is there any chance to take a picture of them? Oh, yeah.
Claro! Oh, just a sec, because se a gente tem o protetor de tela atrás, não aparece o negócio. Deixa eu tirar.
And everyone who's holding a paper, make some sound so that only those who are having sound.
Yeah.
So that
yes.
Okay, works.
Deixa eu ver se eu consigo agora.
Beautiful.
Eu não sei onde eu estou, peraí.
My suggestion is, I want to invite you all later after this webinar, take a picture of it and then share it with all of us, in the channels that the festival is using for their whatever marketing and so on, because I really would like to see everything that you have like written there, but I currently cannot scroll far enough. And I think we can then, if you share a picture of yourself with this kind of message or whatever it is, share
mark.
it.
We can mark you, Claudia. You can put in the chat.
One that I wanted to share with you as well, just very up to date, is this one. There's currently this back to school thing, where I'm like, back to school. Actually, I'm looking forward to better education. So just as also another possibility, that is very up to date, because this back to school in all shops, is like really a little bit too much for my eyes. We are not going backwards. We are moving forward, and I'm aware that we have like a little bit less than an hour left, and I still wanted to share with you some ideas. So you can lean now backwards. I want to do a little experiment with you. And for this, there's actually no real slide except the maybe next one. Could you see the next slide? This was for our exercise, and one more. And one more. Let's see where we are. And one more. Exactly. So this topic is about, no, one back. So let's do an experiment. And for you, it's about relaxing. I'm going to read a text to you, and I want you to listen. And this is all. Yeah. So listen carefully. Imagine you pick up a fresh and juicy lemon. You notice how it feels to your touch. You feel its weight and its smooth and slightly bumpy skin. You notice its bright yellow color, its size and shape. You may see the end where it was attached to the tree. Then you take a sharp knife and slowly cut the lemon in half. You feel the initial resistance to the knife and how it's slicing through the lemon until it splits and falls open. You notice the pale yellow of the pulp, the white inner peel, and you might see some seeds inside. Drops of juice have pearled on the surface of the lemon halves. Now carefully cut one of the halves in two. Lift the lemon quarter and smell how the fresh citrus scent is filling your nose. Now open your mouth and bite into the sour, juicy lemon. Smell the lemon, taste the lemon, feel the lemon juice filling your mouth. Who of you could envision this well? Add something to the chat. How did it feel like for you to imagining this little lemon experiment? What happened to you? What could you feel? What could you sense? Delicious. What else? You could like feel the taste. You could feel it, the fresh mouth water. Exactly. So it is very likely that listening to that story was increasing the production of sliver in your mouth. So you had more of this mouth water. only by listening to my story. There is no lemon, neither here at my place nor in your place, maybe. Yeah? So you could feel the sour taste, you could feel it on your tongue, although there were only my words. And this is exactly one of the examples for the power of language, because it's not just about how I feel about the language, how I feel that it could be differently. It has an effect on ourselves. Earlier, Paula said also she can feel the difference between the red words and the green words when I was reading them out loud. They have a different vibration. So now I want to speak about how this is having an effect on our actions. And I want to give you 3 examples that I find really relevant here. So help me with the slides, please. Next slide. So we are in the center of the slide. It's about how language impacts our actions. Next slide, please. So one example is, there was an experiment where they were asking participants in this experiment to read a list of a total of 27, 28 words that were all related to elder age. And they did an experiment with them in the room, you know, and then they let them go. And this was the moment when the experiment actually started. The people didn't feel that this is part of the experiment, but this is the actual experiment. So what they did is they were taking the time of how long does it take these participants to move from the experimental room to the elevator, you know? And they had 2 experimental groups. One of them was reading the text, exactly, and one of the other ones was not reading a text. Those who read the neutral text, they were moving to the elevator in an average of 7.5 seconds. Those who read the text with the elderly stereotype words in it moved more slowly. And all of this by only reading this text. Another example is already, you know, in the next slide, that's fine. Another example is the one where they were asking participants to play a game. And it was exactly the same game, but they told one group of the participants that they will play the Wall Street game. And the other half of the group, they told them that they will play the community game. And what they found is that, next slide, please, that in the Wall Street game, the bigger part, the bigger majority, 67% of the people was actually in a competitive mode. Only 33% were starting that game in a cooperative mode. And then when they have seen the other one is not cooperating, they switched and they also become aggressive and competitive. While in the other one, it's maybe not visible on that slide, I might have deleted this animation. While in the other group, it was exactly the other way around. So in the community game group, they were starting out playing cooperatively immediately. And what has triggered their difference in the behavior? The name of a game. The words had such a big impact on them. What you already can see here on that slide is that they were looking at the, no, next slide, go 1 slide back, please. Go 1 more slide back, yes. What they did is they were looking at, no, 1 slide forward now. I'm sorry, yes, that's it. They were looking at students studying economics. And what they found is that in their first year, their altruistic benevolent traits were higher than in their 3rd year. And it was really a big effect because they found that after being educated with these ideas of an economic man and competitive advantages and whatever other economic models, the altruistic benevolent cooperative traits of these students were dramatically reduced. Imagine, these are the managers, the directors of companies. So the words they were showered with had a long-term effect on all of them. So on the next slide, you find one of my favorite quotes. It's of Buckminster Fuller, and what it says is, "You never change things by fighting against the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the old model obsolete." And that's what I do here with Speak Green. I'm not fighting against the past, honestly. I am offering an alternative language for the future. So let me give you some more examples out of different areas of life. So 5 additional practical areas. We are now on this U shape. We are now moving upwards. We are coming closer to the end. But I want to give you a little bit more ideas beyond the Corona words that I had shared with you at the beginning. Next slide, please. Yeah, here I'm saying like 5 additional practical areas where language matters, and disclaimer, they matter everywhere. So here is one of my areas or one visualization that is close to my other heart project, Life at Work. So here you can see the difference between the old way of looking at work and seeing companies as machines in which you have human resources, in which you engineer and re-engineer things. You have a blueprint as a plan. You have a pipeline of candidates. You are having a master plan for the next 5 years and so on. And in the green part, you see that they are using you don't see it big enough, but we can share this visual later with you. You see the organization as a living system where you have an ecosystem, where you experiment and innovate together, where it's about the emerging future, where everyone is leading, where everyone is contributing their whole self. So that's one example, you know, where you can see this kind of language in action. Another example comes on the next slide, and it begins exactly here. It is, you know, when you think about refugees, you know, in Germany, where I'm born, you can imagine in Europe, there was this, what they called a refugee crisis. But what we actually discovered is it's not a refugee crisis. It's a political crisis. It's a reform crisis. It's a crisis in human values. And it's not about the refugees. In German newspapers, they have changed the German term for refugees into someone who had to escape their home country, because refugee gave the wrong impression also in German, and they also then they changed the term, which was very important to signify that these people did not leave their countries voluntarily. They had really good reasons to do that. And what I found relevant here as well was bringing back to our consciousness that this saying, this quote of one person seeking refuge, he said, "We are not chasing your benefits, we are actually fleeing your bombs." And that's important. And I think if we all had to take in as many kicked out T's, newcomers, new citizens, people seeking refuge to our countries, if we would have to use the money that we made with weapon sales for this, we would still not be, we still could welcome new people. That's the second area I wanted to share with you. The third area is something you can see on the next slide. Keep it the way it is. The red one is missing, doesn't matter. I will guide you through this. Leave it the way it is. So when you think about headlines about sexual violence, sexual harassment in the street, what happens is that very often they are not putting it the way I did it here. Normally they are saying a woman was raped. There's no man in the sentence. Or they're saying 90% of the girls have experience with harassment, sexual harassment in the street. There's no boy and there's no man in that sentence. It's an experience of the girl they want to make us believe. I believe we need to be very careful about these messages, especially in headlines, in newspapers, and we need to show those who are responsible for this. So a man raped a woman. And also think about gang rape, you know, gang rape sounds like gang rape, you know, what is gang rape? But if you say 5 men raped a woman, it has a completely different message. And I think it's important to bring this message also to surface it, to show it. And of course, I'm not only speaking, I'm aware that also men get raped. So there, I also believe we have to say, who are the people who are doing it? We cannot just put them under the carpet and try to forget them or ignore them. That's also why when I come to the next slide, very often people are trying to change this whole idea of aggression or violence against women by saying that they are sisters, they are our sisters and our daughters. And Legal Feminista said, stop framing rape victims as daughters and sisters and start framing rapists as brothers and fathers. So this is changing our narrative as well. And I think it's important to show who's responsible for what. You know, that's my third example. My fourth example is now a little bit lighter. It's about environmental protection. Think about your cities. Very often in cities, they are saying, don't litter, you know, like don't litter, don't litter, don't litter. What does don't litter mean? I mean, at the end of the day, we want everyone to keep the community clean, keep the streets clean, whatsoever. We need to remind people about what to do, because as you've seen in the example with the pink elephant, to tell them what not to do is not helpful. They do not know what not to do. You know, I have to tell them, take your trash to your, whatever, your trash bin at home, bring it to the next garbage bin, do something with it. We have to tell them what to do. Don't litter. What is litter anyway? This is not a word that speaks to me. The next slide shows you why we need to keep the community clean, because it's an ecosystem, you know, and we are drinking the water, we are polluting. It's a circle at the end of the day. And if you take this to the extreme, very soon it will be the whales will show that kind of signs, like save the humans, you know, which is also changing a narrative. Imagine this. So this was my fourth example. My fifth example, and now only one click, because there is, oh, okay, it doesn't work. Doesn't matter. I wanted to ask you if you remember the slogan from the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. They are valid until the year 2030, and they have this huge slogan, leave no one behind. And when you think about this out of this perspective of Speak Green and what we spoke about today, leave, what is leaving? Why leave? No one, whom? Behind? I mean, like in the back, you know, leave no one behind. So my suggestion was to say something like, next slide, take everyone with us, you know, care about everyone whatsoever, but leave no one behind is not enough in my perception. So this is how I see it, and that's also why I'm changing the narrative. And you see this on the next slide, from this kind of me to we. Yeah, I believe that actually we are a lot more speaking this we language and changing the narratives. So yeah, do you have any questions, any comments? I see that the chat was rolling while I was speaking, but it's simply too fast for me. So if there's any questions you would like to voice right now, add them to the chat so I can see them, I focus on them, and I can answer them before I then come also to an end, because I'm also aware of our time, and I would also like us to close in time, but I still have like three more things I want to share with you. It doesn't look as if they're like clear questions right now. Then let me continue maybe. So next slide, I'm taking it further. So we are coming now to this right top corner, wrap up, yes, I'm coming to the closing of it. So what could we do is my next slide. And what I would like you to do is the following. Check how you are speaking, create awareness for your language, become a detective for your words. And if you can in the moment, move it from red language to green language and use human language, energizing, inspiring language. Imagine it would be your house. The second point is create and cultivate new language. If the language we're currently speaking is not helpful, then we need to come up with other words. And there are many new words that we are now using that we did not use in the past. So there is a constant evolution going on. Contribute to that evolution. And the third one is show solidarity and become a co-author of our lives, of our world. So this is what I'm asking you to do here. If you want to know more about Speak Green, you can find on the next slide, I show the picture of my TED Talk that I gave. And this is like 18 minutes to watch. There's also a couple of clips on YouTube. One is about peace. So there was the World Peace Day just a couple of days ago, where I also said, we are not fighting for peace. This is ironic. We are peacing for peace, you know? And so that's examples. I'm offering something there. And then the slogan I used, thank you for that. The slogan I continued to use for Speak Green was always words create worlds. Now I am very close to publishing the book. So in the announcement, it was said it's already out there, and it's still not. Keep that slide. I thought I used this opportunity because we are currently trying to finalize the cover. And I thought about asking you, like when you look at this, even if you just see it like very, very small as an impression, you know, like cover 1, 2, or 3. Which one would be your favorite? Maybe you put your the number into the chat, because I currently am in this situation. I need to choose. I don't know what to choose. So maybe you can help me with this. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Fernanda. Thank you, Paula. Okay. Ah, super. Wow. Interesting. Haha. This is, I'm so happy I asked you. So beautiful. But also, if you have another opinion, you know, if you think it's 2 or 3, add it, you know, I mean, please go for that, because I really want to get a clear picture. So I want you to think about, how do you now feel at the end of this Speak Green webinar? What do you take with you? What will you do to be or to become a co-author of the world? I totally, yeah, you already started adding this to the chat. Thank you very much, Fernanda, and also Fernanda. So please add more of how do you now feel? What has it changed in yourself maybe? What would you now like to do differently? And I love that you are seeing that it's clearer or smoother, also challenged, because it's a wide field. I totally can relate to this. Inspired, fulfilled. Thank you for this. Easier to see at the shelf. Yeah, this is regarding the book title, of course, I'm sorry. Hope. So I'm happy for all of what you're saying here, seeing a better future. I really believe that our words are like micro interventions. They are holding the seed for the better future. They're extremely powerful. And this is why I want us to use them with consciousness. And now I come to my last story that I wanted to share with you before we are coming to a closing. And you might have heard this before, but I think it's a good moment to share this with you. And this is exactly the right image for that. So you might have heard about this story of an old Cherokee chief of the Cherokee tribe, who is teaching his grandchild about life. And he, or she maybe, is telling the grandchild, a fight is going on inside every human being. It is a terrible fight, and it is between 2 wolves. One of the wolves is evil. He's anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. Before I continue reading, I just want you to have a look at at Flavio doing the sign language, because I mean, even in sign language, these words do not look pretty. And I continue now with the second part of the story. He continued, the other wolf is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight, the same fight is going on inside all of us, inside every human being. And the grandchild thinks about the story for a moment and then asks, which wolf wins? And the grandparent says, the one you feed. So I hope you keep on feeding your inner wolf with kind words, with green language. And I come back to one of my first slides at the beginning of our time together that comes from you. Gentileza, Gerard, Gentileza. Everything we needed to know is actually already written there. So I come to the end of my workshop with you, with my general statement. Words create worlds, choose the green ones. And on the next slide, you see a bouquet of flowers I want to share with you. It is sunflowers. And in some languages, maybe also in Portuguese, sunflowers are called, in French, it's called tournesol. So they are turning their head with the sun, maybe also in Portuguese. So I want you to turn your heads with where the energy is, where the sun is, where the light comes from, where hope and love comes from. So I thank you very much for being present, for actively participating. And it's 55, it's a double-digit number, and we're closing now. So thank you for your presence.
Obrigada.
Então, gente, não é demais.
Obrigada.
Falei para vocês que essa mulher era pura
I
energia.
feel my skin, how do you say that? Arrepiada.
Cláudia, querida.
Goosebumps.
Super enorme, gigante, obrigada daqui do Brasil, aí para o Cairo. O que essa pandemia fez de positivo foi nos colocar tão próximos e que a gente consiga perceber que o mundo é um só, né? A nossa casa. Estamos todos juntos, todos próximos. Então, cuidemos do mundo, cuidemos uns dos outros. É o que a gente tem, né? Uns aos outros. Lana, quer dar uma palavra final aqui, minha parceira? Tão linda, né?
Agradecer o insight tão transformador, que fácil de aplicar, que eu posso me lembrar claramente. Eu estava até pensando, I was thinking, Claudia, on having something green, you know, like a ring or whatever that I could remember. Speak green, you know, like for a while to train, because it's so curative for me, this, and I'm so glad to... Curative, I don't know what inventei, mas é tão curativo para mim, não sei como dizer isso em inglês, me passou. É isso, minhas queridas, sejam bem-vindas ao festival, obrigada por estarem todos aqui e um beijo enorme. Nos vemos nas próximas painéis, tem mais agora de tarde, de noite. O pessoal do povo Funiô, nós estamos coletando para os índios, então, o tempo que esse QR Code estiver aqui, também vocês podem doar assistindo de novo o vídeo, vai estar disponível no YouTube. E muito obrigada pela participação de todos vocês.
Obrigada, pessoal. Obrigada, Cláudia. E um fim de semana lindo, verde para todos nós. Continuem aqui sintonizados. À tarde a gente tem o Futuro Possível, trazendo aí 2 jornadas, 2 blocos da maratona Futuros Gentis, que promete ser lindo. À noite temos negócios gentis, amanhã cidades gentis, economias gentis. É muita gentileza no fim de semana só, né, Lana? Bora!
É isso aí. E vamos fazer um clique todo mundo abre a câmera e vamos dar um clique. Fazer um clique para poder... Cadê Luísa? Aê, somos 22 pessoas, então... 1, 2, 3, todo mundo. X! Que lindo! Ótimo! Lindo! Então, queridos, muito obrigado por estarem aqui. Temos mais pessoas? A gente não fez clique de todas? Eu não vi. Bom, obrigadíssimo. De novo agora, então. X. Aí. Lindos. Muito bom, gente. Obrigadíssimo e esperamos vocês nas outras... Cláudia postou algo para a gente. Muito obrigado, Cláudia. Thank you so much. See you. Tchau.